today we'll study with the session 3 of Ecology, Zoo Geography and Wildlife Management. The title of this session is Biogeochemical Cycles, and under that we will be explaining about the principle and the concept of the biogeochemical cycles, and one cycle we will study, that is the hydrological cycle. The learning objectives of this ecology, zoo geography and wildlife management is to impart students a sustained interest and enthusiasm to learn the concept in ecology, zoo geography and wildlife biology. Also, the students can understand its environment and also have the ability to modify the environment through the use of the technology. So here this can be considered as the learning objective, and the session outcomes of this particular session is that it helps the students to understand the basic ecological principles and the processes operating at the levels such as the individual, population, community and ecosystem level. Also, a student can understand or demonstrate the skills in qualitative and quantitative analysis and data interpretation. The session includes the biogeochemical cycle. First, we will explain or we will deal with the definition of this biogeochemical cycle. In ecology, this biogeochemical cycle, the name has got the meaning. Bio means living, geo means the earth and the chemical component. So it is a pathway by which a chemical substance is turned over or moves through the biotic, that is the biosphere, and the abiotic includes the lithosphere, atmosphere and the hydrosphere components of the earth. That means a chemical substance moving in and around the biotic and the abiotic components is called as the biogeochemical cycle. Here, ecosystems have many biogeochemical cycles. They are the part of the system, such as the water cycle, the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the hydrological cycle, etc. So all these chemical elements in the organism are the part of the biogeochemical cycles. Also, being a part of this living organism, these chemical elements also cycle through the abiotic, means non-living factors of the ecosystem, such as the water, that is the hydrosphere, land, lithosphere and the atmosphere. Here, the nutrients include the carbon, the nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus and the sulfur used in the ecosystem by living organisms as a part of the closed system. So here you can observe this word, that is the closed, because these chemicals are recycled and replenished, which is not there in an open system. That means these chemicals move from one component to another component, but it is not lost in any one of the conditions. It is not lost or destroyed or replenished. So here it is recycled and it has been reused. The 6 most common elements associated with organic molecules are carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus and sulfur. Take a variety of chemical forms and also exist in the atmosphere for longer periods. It is not a matter of 1 day, 2 days or the years. It is present in the atmosphere for the longer periods, that is on the land, in the water, or it may be present beneath the earth's surface. So there is a continuous movement of these molecules in the on the earth, below the earth and above the earth. So today we will explain you about the hydrological cycle. So this hydrological cycle is also called as the water cycle, or it is also called as the hydrologic cycle. So it describes the continuous movement. Hydro means water. So as the name itself indicates, it is a continuous movement of water on, above and below the surface of the earth. So here if you observe this hydrological cycle, this is the diagram that gives you the detailed explanation of this water cycle. So here there is the explanation of this water cycle, where the oceans are the major resources of this particular water molecules. So these oceans water will contain about 97% of the earth's water. So these oceans will get evaporated by the sun. So sun acts as the evaporating agent, which will help these oceans to evaporate, and that evaporates in the form of the water vapors, and this water vapor rises and it condenses as the clouds. The same evaporation rises and condenses into the clouds, and then these clouds will be moved with the help of these winds that move in the atmosphere. So wind moves these clouds into the sky, and then these particular wind and that clouds forms the water droplets, and they drop on the earth as the form of the drizzle rain, the normal rain, the snow or the ice. Along with that, there is also the accumulation, the snow melt, meltwater, sublimation and the desublimation and the deposition. That means the clouds will drizzle as the rain, and also along with the rain it forms the snow and the ice, and then the melting back into the liquid water and turning into the vapor. So these water molecules again enter this earth as the ground water or the streams, rivers, swamps, ponds and the lakes. That means all these water bodies are filled with the water which has obtained from the rain, and this water will be taken up by the plants, and then later these plants transpire, that is evapotranspiration takes place, and again the water will move towards these clouds in the form of water vapors. Here the source of water there are in the two ways. One is the ocean, which forms the largest amount of the reservoir, and the other one is the plants in which the transpiration takes place, and the water is lost in the form of water vapor, which again move towards the atmosphere and combine with these clouds. And here the remaining water is soaked into the groundwater, where the groundwater is filled, flows below it and seeps back and enriched in the minerals. So it will go and it will settle down in the groundwater, which will be a reservoir of the water, that is in the form of infiltration, percolation, subsurface flow, aquifer, water table and the seepage, also the spring and the wells. So these are all the sources of water which are found in the underground. Here in this way the cycle will continue, and at the end of this cycle we get again the water which will be again moved back to the oceans. The rivers brings the water to the oceans, and wherever you go you don't find any wastage of water in this cycle. The human interference only will change this cycle or will destroy this cycle. The same thing has been explained theoretically, where the sun, it will drive the water cycle, or it will start the water cycle and evaporate the water in the oceans and the seas. The ice and the snow, it sublimates directly into the water vapor, and then also the evapotranspiration by the plants takes place, and then it is evaporated from the soil. The water molecules has also smaller mass than the major components of the atmosphere, that is the nitrogen and oxygen, and hence it is less dense, in the sense it is present in less amount. And the significant difference in the density, buoyancy drives the humid air higher. Also, if you observe, as the altitude increase, as there is a height molecules, or when there is the higher altitude, air pressure decreases and also the temperature drops. That means there is very cold when you go towards the higher regions or the hill stations. And the lower temperature causes water vapor condense into tiny droplets, which are also heavier than the air. Also, you can see that the huge concentration of these droplets over the large space in the atmosphere become as the clouds. That means these water molecules or water droplets forms as the cloud, and they condense. Some of them condense near the ground level, that is called as the fog. which you can observe in the mornings, that is the fog. And also some precipitation falls as the snow or the hail, sleet, and can accumulate as ice caps and the glaciers. Here, which these are the water resources which can be stored for thousands of years as the frozen water. Here, these water molecules will be formed as the frozen water, and then when there are the summers, when there is the sun, this frozen water will melt and it will again convert back into the water. Here most water falls back into the oceans or on the land as the rain, and then water flows over the ground as the surface runoff. So the water is the only component that will carry this water or the minerals from the molecules or on the surface towards the ponds or towards the water bodies. And the portion of runoff enters rivers in the valleys in the landscape with stream flowing water towards the oceans. So here anywhere if you go, the rivers, the streams, they have to join these oceans, and then these oceans will again get back the water. That means the water is never lost, never destroyed, but it is again moved back into the oceans. Also the runoff, the water emerging from the ground, may be stored as the fresh water in the lakes. Not all the runoff flows into the rivers, but it also soaks to the ground. That means some of the amount soaks into the ground as the groundwater, and this is called as the infiltration. So some water infiltrates deep in the ground and replenish as aquifers, which can store water for the long periods of the time. So these are also the one of the water reservoirs, and this infiltration stays close to the land surface and can seep back into the surface water bodies and the ocean as the groundwater discharge. So here the water molecules are formed as the reservoirs in many ways. So here you can store the water in the many ways. In the river valleys and the flood plains, there is continuous water exchange between the surface water and the groundwater, and this water again return back to, over time the water returns to the oceans to continue the water cycle. Here if you observe the rivers, valleys, and the flood plains, there is often continuous water exchange between the surface water and the groundwater. Okay, here it is called as the hyperzoic zone, where there is a continuous exchange between the surface water that is on the surface of the ground and the groundwater which is below the earth. So here if you observe, there is no wastage of water or there is no loss of water, and then the water again return back to the water cycle, and then the cycle will be continued. Only the human interference will disturb this cycle, and there is a change in this hydrological cycle. So the natural cycle will be disturbed with the interference of human beings only, and there is no chance of disturbing it naturally. Okay, so we have to think about it and not disturb this hydrological cycle further. Thank you.